Folks, welcome back to Lewis on Film with me, Lewis. And 2023 is done. The other day, you saw my top 10 films of 2023. Run down, nice and quick. Today, we're going to dive in a bit deeper and do a few more in-depth reviews on each one. Before I do that though, before I dive in, I've got some honourable mentions to do. So I've got my list here. I'm just going to quickly run through some of the ones that almost made the top 10. You know, sort of at the start of the thing, you sit down, you write down every film you remember that you want in there. Here's some of the ones that didn't quite make the top 10, but I want to mention. First of all, massive shout out to Barbie, by the way. It's doing really, really well. It's going to be an awards contender, I think. It deserves a mention, but it just didn't hit me emotionally enough, and I had a bit of an issue with the transition into the final act, but it's a good film. Sanctuary, which is available to watch on Amazon. If you haven't seen that, do check it out. Margot Qualley in an absolutely brilliant role as a dominatrix. It's a great chamber piece, two-hander film, really, really good. Women Talking, of course, won best screenplay last year, so very good. Rye Lane, absolutely wonderful rom-com, nice and short, nice and sweet, all set in London. Very quirky. I liked it a lot. Sisu, great fun. Godzilla -1, one of my favourite cinema trips this year, that one, and puts all the other Godzilla films recently to shame. It was a nice surprise, that was. We've got the Bike Riders. Now, that's technically going to be released in 2024, officially, but it was shown at the BFI Film Festival in London. Very good film, Mike Nichol. I'm a big fan of Mike Nichol. When that comes out, eventually, it's coming out in June in the UK. I'll give that a full review later, but check that out when it comes around. Nyad was very good. Anatomy of a Fall, not quite making the top 10. I know it's one of them that's sort of in everyone's top 10. Just lacking that emotional connection for me, quite honestly. The film was tense, the acting was the highest echelon. Sandra Hüller turning in an absolutely stellar performance. And don't get me wrong, well shot, while everything, it all worked, it just lacked emotional kick for me to really sink my teeth into it. Dream Scenario, Nick Cage, phenomenal. Saltburn, Emerald Fennell back again, absolutely wonderful, and Barry Keogh's show. And finally, The Teacher's Lounge, which is a German film. You're going to love that when you see it. And finally, what would be number 11 is May December. It's an acting masterclass and the go-to for a good monologue these days now. I think it will become one. So, okay, there's some honorable mentions. The top 10 then. So, number 10, I was cheating a little bit here because I chose The Three Musketeers Part 1 and Part 2, D'Artagnan and Milady. Looking at them as a whole, they're still brilliant. You know, they're the same team, same cast, same director, same everything. So looking at them as a whole was easy. So that's why I chose that to be number 10. But probably the first part is better. The second part is wonderful for the first half. Second half gets a bit more sort of, you know, let's see this conclude. And the last 15 minutes kind of throws itself out the window. But it does linger you for a part 3. We want a part 3. Please give us a part 3 because this was absolutely wonderful. The Four Musketeers. Come on. Why not? Why not? Finish the story. But, so, the film, which I think we all know the Three Musketeers story by now, don't we? But the fact that it was actually in French, which hasn't been done for many, many years, over 60 years, since the last version of it in French was done on film. And there was just immediately something about the aesthetic of that working more. Like the previous Musketeer films, Paul W.S. Anderson did one fairly recently, didn't he? And there's one from the early 90s, Kiefer Sutherland and co. who are in it, Tim Curry playing Cardinal Richelieu. They're the ones I've grown up with, and they're the ones I know. And they're all very kind of Hollywoody, over-the-top, camp, and, you know, but at least it gives you the story, the bulk of the story for the Three Musketeers. But this one, much more down to earth, much more gritty to an extent, but also fun. It is fun. There's moments of wonderful humour in there. in particular from D'Artagnan and his dogged attitude, his go-get-em attitude. It's all absolutely wonderful. The romantic angle between D'Artagnan and Constance is very, very well handled. And the whole thing with the Three Musketeers themselves, they've each got their own character. Porthos being bisexual in the film is not thrown into your face in any way, but it's handled really, really nicely. It's a lovely touch. And the action sequences, which are all done in one take, they're all done in this really visceral kind of one take way, and from top to bottom in both films, they're all done in this seeming one take effort, and it's wonderful. I hope you can tell the excitement of it. It's a really good film. It's in French, but it's got some very familiar faces in who you'll have seen from very recent films. Vincent Cassel's in it, for example, and Vicky Krieps is in it. She's been around a lot recently, but it really is a great swashbuckling action adventure film. And if you like that, go check it out. Number 9 is To Leslie, which was Andrea Riseborough's Oscar-nominated performance last year at the Oscars. It was released over here, I think, in February. But we're a big fan over here of Andrea Riseborough. I think she's absolutely wonderful. Ever since I saw her for the first time in Oblivion, starring Tom Cruise. But ever since, I thought she stole the spotlight in that. And ever since then, she just keeps popping up in all these wonderful films, and she's always good. So she's going to carry on being a favourite of mine. But she's not the only good performance in it. I've got to give a massive shout out to Mark Maron, who he's got this way of playing guys who are horrible arseholes, but they're also kind-hearted to an extent. Like they're blunt and get the hell off my land, that kind of thing. Oh, I can see you're thirsty. Oh, have this bottle of water and get off my land. That's that kind of vibe. And the film moves at a fairly fast pace. It's about redemption, and it's about finding what you want to, how to make it work for yourself. Finding that spot in the world, but you need a leg up. And the fact that as soon as she is given this leg up and she takes it and runs with it, it's a wonderful story, is To Leslie. I really liked it. Owen Teague, of course, putting in another solid performance. He's a young actor. He keeps popping up again in all these places, but he does really, really well. And I really, really like this film. It was captivating. It got my attention. I was emotionally gripped, and it's funny, it's touching, it hit a lot of the right notes, and the performances in it just knock it out of the park. Andrea Riseborough, cherry on top. It's a great film. Really, really good. Number 9 is To Leslie. Number 8 is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which is by far and away better than its predecessor, and probably better than where the character came from in Shrek. Obviously, of course, in the classic fairy tale setting. But Antonio Banderas, Puss in Boots, has always been a great character. Like, as soon as he entered Shrek, they thought, oh, we're keeping him in Shrek because he's so wonderful. This is actually the one that he's needed to be as good as he can be. And the fact that the film deals with death and morality in a family setting is a dangerous territory. So you've got to get it right. There's got to be humour in it to soften the blow. There's got to be all these things. There's action, there's fantasy and adventure, magic. Lots of magic on screen with this film right here. A critic that I have a lot of respect for in the UK said that he felt the film was fine, but was beaten by other films that are better than it. For example, Pinocchio, he compared it to, which, okay, they've got similar themes, but they are very, very different. I think Pinocchio probably rightfully won the Oscar, but would I pick that? Would I pick Pinocchio to show the children and teach them about morality? No, I wouldn't. I'd pick this. I'd pick this and I would throw it at them. Pinocchio was fine. I'm not a massive Pinocchio fan generally, but it was okay. But I much prefer this. Again, the action, the excitement, the humour, the magic of it is absolutely wonderful. And it's an important theme, and it got everything right, I think. There's a lot to love in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and if you haven't seen it yet, do check it out because I think you'll agree. Number 7 is Oppenheimer, which you'd probably think might be higher on my list, but in actual fact, again, I've been saying this is kind of a repeat theme here. Emotionally, the film just didn't really grip me. It grips you in other ways. The test facility, the beta test of the whole thing was ridiculous. Very well edited, the sound design of it all worked, and the whole tension that it builds is excellent. But the film just lacked that real emotional connection for me. Again, it is a big thing. But as a technical achievement, this film is nothing short of miraculous. Again, top draw performances, Cillian Murphy in particular, Robert Downey Jr. especially as well. But of course, with it being a Christopher Nolan film, you really get the nuts and bolts of it. It's done very mechanically, very... You really feel the strain of the man as he's in that interview. You really see the construct when they're doing the construction of it. You feel the sort of the math that's gone into it. You see all the fatigue of how big that thing must be to be up there, and what everyone's feeling when they know it's about to go off and it could go wrong. That's all explored. It's all done very, very well. And as an achievement in cinema, that's what makes the film so good. Emotionally, a little bit lacking, but still very, very good. So, Oppenheimer, number 7. Number 6 is Talk to Me. Not often you'll see a horror film in my top 10, and that's not because I don't like horror films. It's actually because I haven't seen a horror film for a long, long time that I haven't looked at and gone, well, it's fine, but it's not exceptional. Talk to Me is the exception. It's absolutely wonderful. It treats a drug craze, and it is kind of a drug craze, but possession is the drug craze. Possession is that kind of addictive drug that they're doing, and they treat it like a drug use. Like there's a montage in it where, in other films, you've seen that in other films where it's actually them passing around the joint or whatever. There's a montage there where that happens, and they do it, but as part of a possession craze, which is really, really fun. But as well as things like that, which make it clever, the film is scary. It's a horror film that is scary, and that's what you want when you go and see a horror film. So the fact that we've actually got one that's scary and original, using a different idea to attack an unfamiliar territory, but I can't not give a credit to the performers as well. Really, really good acting, which lures you in even more. Some great shot tactics in there. You're not afraid to turn away when things are about to get a bit rough. Sound design as well, especially, really sort of makes your skin crawl during the whole thing. But the originality, fun, genuinely scary, exciting to watch, and it all fits. It all fits under the banner as well. So, Talk to Me, really, really good. Definitely checking that one out again. Into the top 5 then, with number 5 and Past Lives. So, Celia Song's beautiful romance film is, first of all, it's very relatable in the fact that, I want to do this, but I'm holding back a year, or I'm not doing it now, I'm going to do it later. There's that side of things. And then there's the actual, I want to be here with you, but I'm over here because it's my career, it's what I want to do. And so there's a relatable element to all of this, which works really, really nicely. It's beautifully shot. It really is a beautiful watch. And it's sweet. It's a very kind-hearted film. There's no malice in anyone's nature here, really. It's all very sweet conversations about friends who are encouraging other friends to do the right thing. It's about a couple who want to do the right by each other. Yes, they've got an attraction to each other. One of them's married, one of them isn't. He could go anywhere. They could, have this affair. They could just be friends. We don't know where it's going, but it's done in such a beautiful way, and it's just one of them that if you let take you, it is slow, it is methodical, it is all in some. A lot of it's in the unsaid. There's a lot there that's there's a scene on the train. Their hands are almost touching. It's the poster as well. Their hands are almost touching on the tram, and it sums up a lot of this. I could take your hand. I'm not going to. It's all in the unsaid, and the performances are again really strong. It's lovely, a lovely romance drama. Number 4 then. Number 4 is Babylon. Again, nominated for some awards last year, officially 2022, but we in the UK we got it released I think in February. I loved this from top to bottom, start to finish. It was just so crazy. Why are you pushing this elephant up this hill to get to the... well, because the celebrities said they wanted an elephant at the party. Okay, it's surreal in that regard, but the film works. It looks at what it was like to work in Hollywood, and the sheer craze of it all. The fact, especially during the silent era, when you literally could have one film making something, and literally next to it was another thing. No walls, no, and it was all fine because you didn't have to worry about sound. So. It really showed you some history, which I thought was wonderful. Sort of paying tribute to other films. So for the obvious one is Singing in the Rain, where they're trying to record the sound, and they deliberately look at that and homage to it. And I thought that was absolutely fine to do that. I know some people took issues with that. I don't know why. So many films have done it. So many people do it quite continuously. The fact that Damien Chazelle did it and handled it beautifully, I thought, and it made it funny, it made it interesting, and all these crazy characters who pop up in it, and we've heard some of the stories that take place in this film. That they're dialed up a bit, maybe, but we've heard similar stories about some of these similar things that happen in Hollywood now, even now, as well as back then. And it was a look at a period in history of Hollywood that Damien Chazelle clearly has an appreciation for and an interest in. I'm the same way. I frequently revisit that period in Hollywood to watch those films and to find out about these new people who I haven't heard of, and it's always interesting. So I completely agree with his approach, his methods to achieve what he did, and as well as that, the film's entertaining. The soundtrack and the score of it's all absolutely wonderful and upbeat and vibrant in all the right places. Margot Robbie turning in another stellar performance. Brad Pitt in one of his better performances as well, I thought. Even Tobey Maguire popping up as the crazy film producer going into the underground club. I loved it. I loved it top to bottom. It was really entertaining. I didn't care that it was 3 hours long, and I loved everything it tried to achieve and did achieve. So, yes, Babylon, number 4. Number 3 is Suzume, which is an anime story about a girl who basically she finds this magical door and becomes obsessed by it, and she finds this boy who's trying to close the door, and she helps him to achieve it. And it turns out it's going to happen again, throughout the country. So she jumps on a train and takes him on this magical journey, with wonderful, imaginative characters. And crazy goings on that I don't want to spoil, so I don't want to discuss that one too heavily, because it really is a wonderful adventure, and I didn't really look at it closely before I went into it. I just knew I was going to see something that I would from the director of Weathering with You and Your Name, both wonderful films as well. But Suzume was the crowning achievement so far for me. Again, it's thrilling adventure, gorgeous animation, wonderful music. I loved it. Suzume is number 3. Number 2 is The Holdovers. Alexander Payne writes and directs this wonderful comedy drama. And if you've liked any of Alexander Payne's films before, you'll definitely appreciate this. But basically, it's about this kid who's held over at during the Christmas period at boarding school, and the teacher who has to look after him, and the dinner lady who serves them lunch. But she's also got her own problems that she's trying to sort of live with and work through, and how they all help each other and come together in the end. And they, at the beginning, they can't quite get along, and it's all going wrong, and the teacher's trying to teach him, and the kid doesn't want to know. It's really good. It's great fun, gripping. You know, you want to know what's going on. It's not a fast-moving film by any means, but it's a really enjoyable one. And it's all about the characters, it's all about their relationship, and it's all about the fact that it's set over Christmas, which adds that little bit of extra magic to it as well. I loved The Holdovers. I'm a massive fan of Alexander Payne anyway. Ever since I saw About Schmidt, I went back and checked his previous films. I've watched all of his films since. And this is probably his best one, I think. It's The Holdovers, starring Paul Giamatti, who I think is getting another Oscar nod for this. He might even win it, so we'll see. But The Holdovers is number 2. Number 1 is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. When I saw this film, I said that's going to take some beating, and it's my favourite film of the year so far. That has not changed. It's still number 1, and I think it's absolutely beautifully sweet, sincere, and it's endearing to so many. I think it's inspiring to a lot of people. There's a great story I want to tell you about. It was Mark Kermode on his show opposite Simon Mayo, and he was reviewing the film, saying what the plot was, and Simon Mayo, who hadn't seen it, basically was sat there and he was listening, and Mark Kermode talked about the scene where the girls must increase their busts, and Simon Mayo knew what he was going to say, and Mark Kermode was like, how did you know that? And Simon was like, well, I think my mum said it. I think that's beautifully sweet, the fact that either her mum and those generation of ladies genuinely did that and thought that and said that and did that, and passed it on to up the chain, even though he's a male, or the fact that she'd read the book and that became a part of her life, and that's a fun memory for Simon Mayo to remember. I think that's beautifully sweet. It is from the perspective of a young girl, and you could argue that the film's for women, which is fine, but the fact that I had so much relation to it, and the fact that I enjoyed it so much, despite it not being me that was the audience, just shows how well the film's made. It's perfectly written. I think it's very, very funny. There's moments in it of real kind of emotion, and in many ways a taboo subject for a lot of people to talk about, but it's a conversation that all young ladies have to have. I've never been in that situation myself, obviously, because I'm not a young lady. I've never been a young lady, but I think the fact that the film touches on those points so well, so beautifully, and you can see the sincerity in the actor's face when it happens, and that's what made it work for me. Just the whole scenario of this young lady who's in a new home, a new part of town, approaching womanhood and making new friends, and whose mother is also in a similar place in her life, albeit for different reasons in different ways. And I think that's what really works for me. The dynamic between the two actors playing the mother and the daughter, and as well as that, Kathy Bates is the grandmother, who is also just absolutely wonderful. That's what makes the film work for me. And I couldn't help but make this number 1 because I just think it's so beautiful. Every time I think about it, I think happy thoughts. It brings a smile to my face. I laugh. That's what it should be when you think of your favourite film of the year.